Well, welcome to this week's ATL Home and Market Podcast. Thank you for joining us again this week. I'm Ira Miskin. I am broker and team leader with your home sold guaranteed realty, the Miskin Team, along with Stephanie Miskin, co-team leader. And joining us again this week is our senior team advisor, Josh Guallett, who is also our associate broker. And we're going to spend some time today having a pretty serious discussion about what it is, if you're going to buy and sell a home, you need to have provided to you in order for you to achieve what we promise to people, which is a smooth, on time closing. And that's these days, with all of the things that can go wrong and all the issues that come up when you're buying and selling a home, achieving that smooth, on time closing really comes down to who are the people that help you and serve you in getting it done. There's going to be a pretty serious discussion, but I think it's going to be really valuable and helpful, particularly if you're thinking about buying a home in this really interesting up and down and sideways marketplace that's going to be this way for the next couple of years. But before we jump into the heavy stuff, Stephanie is going to get us feeling really good because she's got some totally cool things that are coming up, particularly because of holidays coming up, where it's going to be a lot of fun to be around Metro Atlanta. So, all right, Steph, give us some fun.
All right. There's a lot of stuff going on this weekend and going into the end of September and the beginning of October. For the weekend stuff, this is the last weekend for the North Georgia State Fair in Marietta over at Jim R. Miller Park. You really need to try to get there if you can. They're even having, which they haven't had before, but they're having a circus on the fairgrounds. That once you get into the fairgrounds, once you pay your admission, you're not paying extra admission to go to the circus, and it looks like a lot of fun. So anyway, if you haven't gone, try to get there this weekend. Get online, buy your tickets online, and buy your ride tickets online too, because there's some good deals there.
So that's great. In the past, it used to be stand online to get your tickets. And now when you say get online, it's get on the computer and get online.
On the computer. Yeah, much easier. Absolutely easier. And there's some deals on the buying it online that you're not going to get if you just walk into the fairgrounds. So I strongly suggest that. So anyway, that's the last weekend is this weekend. Now, this weekend is in the city itself. The old 4th Ward is having its annual Fall Festival. And it's in the historic 4th Ward district. There's going to be artists, food, music. And so that's going on this weekend. Also in the city itself in Atlanta is the Sweet Auburn Music Festival. And that's going to be live R&B, gospel, food, vendors, all kinds of stuff down there in the historic district. And that's also a lot of fun. It's been going on for a while. So check that out if you the Sweet Auburn Music Festival. Now, if you're a little bit further north and you want to go to an arts festival, the Riverfest Arts and Crafts Festival in Canton is going on. And that is on the Etowah River Park. That's a lot of fun. And they also, in the past, have a lot of Native American, Indian dancers and celebrations going on at that art festival. I've been to that one many times, and that's always fun. Riverfest Arts and Crafts Festival. So that's up in Canton. And also, this time of year, we've got all the Halloween stuff coming up, right? It's all you see when you go into any of the stores, all the pumpkins and the Halloween stuff. So haunted houses and spooky attractions in Stone Mountain. There's going to be the Netherworld Haunted House. So that sounds scary and a lot of fun if you like that kind of stuff. And also, I mentioned this last week, which is Six Flags Over Georgia always has their Fright Fest going on. And that's still going on. It will be going on until the end of October, the beginning of November. Again, if you have little ones and you want to go in the afternoon. If you want to be really scared, go at night. And last but not least, now we've got pumpkins. There are tons and tons, and you should take part in this, of pumpkin patches and family-friendly fall activities. In Stone Mountain Park, there's a pumpkin festival. There's Bert's Pumpkin Farm, which has been around forever and it's a great big place in Dawsonville, and they have mazes and all kinds of fun things. There's Uncle Shuck's Corn Maze and Pumpkin Patch. I talked about that a few weeks ago. They have a huge corn maze and pumpkins and petting zoo and all kinds of stuff for the kids to take part in. So this is the time of the year that you need to do this kind of stuff. The leaves are starting to change. I told you about a railroad up in Blue Ridge. You know, now's the time to really get online and try to get up into the mountains and catch some of the leaves changing. It's, you know, it's going to last for a couple of weeks and then it won't happen anymore. We'll be into the winter. So that's what I have for you this week. And there's, like I said, a lot of stuff going on.
All right. Well, in between having fun every place around Metro Atlanta, eating in about 10 different places.
Yeah, don't forget Helen, Oktoberfest.
And don't forget Helen of Oktoberfest. By the time you get finished eating all over Metro Atlanta, you'll be 25 pounds heavier for all the food that you've eaten.
Well, it's lots to do.
November, December is a great time in Atlanta. Like October, November, December,
Right.
there's always something to do.
There is. And one of them is buying or selling a home, which people actually do all year long. But the way to do it and who to help you to do it, that's really important. Now, there's lots of different types of people that work in the real estate industry. They have different titles. But even with the different titles, they do the same job. Most of us are real estate agents. We're licensed by the state of Georgia. And there are lots of rules and organizational restrictions and things that we do that we need to do in order to appropriately represent you. And then there are people that go by the title of realtor. Now, realtor is somebody that belongs to a real estate board in addition to being a member of a real estate brokerage. And that puts them into a national organization called the National Organization of Realtors. And they created a title years ago called Realtor to tell you about membership. And they tout the idea that they have an ethical standard for how to approach selling real estate, which is terrific, because if you're going to be in business and you're going to be helping people, ethics is right at the top of the list of what you want when you're working with people that are working with you. But all real estate agents, because on an annual and every 4-year basis, real estate agents take exams and take training in order to be able to keep their license active. And everybody subscribes to a program of ethics. But that's really important. But whether the person calls themselves an agent, or they call themselves a realtor, or they call themselves an advisor, here's the thing. You're either working with one individual who runs out of time if they're working with more than 2 or 3 people, or you're working with a real estate professional that has a team. And that team has folks that work with them right alongside them in the helping to get a home purchased or sold, and critical people that work in the background, dealing with marketing, dealing with legal, dealing with inspections, dealing with appraisals, all of the things that are important when you purchase and sell a home, and having a team behind them to get everything done. Now, that's not typical. And that's something that I think is where we want to keep our focus today, because if you're working with a team, you know that when things go wrong, and they do, because it's a business transaction filled with people, You need the right people associated with that sale or that purchase to be able to move the process along to make it work. Josh, people think, mostly in terms of, an agent, is an agent versus an agent with a team. And you've always been an agent that's been a part of and also led a team and had that group. Talk about the difference and talk about how that helps you to be more effective on behalf of the clients that you work with.
So working on a team, working as a team, it's very different than working as an individual agent. And one of the biggest issues being, if you were to be when you're dealing with an individual agent, is I don't care how good they are. There's only so many hours in a day. That's just how it is. There's only so many hours in a day. Assuming they don't have a personal life whatsoever, at some point they sleep, if nothing else. So having a team makes it where all the T's get crossed, all the I's get dotted. A lot of the phone calls that come on a particular property or about requesting more information about a property, those can be answered firsthand versus sending them the voicemail hoping they respond, when you call them back later. A lot of times when it comes to just collecting documentation, just regarding things like HOAs, things like, of course, bylaws and covenants, HOAs, when it comes to information about the property itself, when it comes to information about the area around the home, all those things are able to be collected. If you're hoping and expecting a single individual agent to be able to do all that and actually do a decent job, it's very stressful. It's a very easily overwhelmed position to be in, one agent trying to do all those things. So because as a team, you can kind of delegate and get those things taken care of simultaneously, the home gets on the market faster. The home actually, is shown to more people. The information is actually accurate so that, someone expecting 5 bedrooms comes into 3 bedrooms, which has happened to me personally. I've walked into the property and the information's just been completely wrong. It changes the whole outlook of the showing. Just basic things. So just working as a team just allows you to really focus on what's really important, which is getting the home sold for the right price. The price actually needs to be sold for.
We're going to dig into some of those because that's the process and the business stuff behind the emotion of the sale. But I want to go back for just a few minutes and spend a little bit of time talking about ethics and our industry and just dealing with issues that come up, that always come up. And it's not like, oh, well, this is once in a blue moon. I'll give you an example. Among the paperwork that we get from every buyer and that we provide from the sellers to the buyers, we get from every seller and we provide to the buyers from the sellers. That's how it goes. Is something called a seller's property disclosure. And that property disclosure asks the seller to inform the world of all of the things associated with that home. How old is the heating system? How old is the roof? Have you done any repairs? Is the house on city water or a well? Lots of different key items that when you disclose it, helps the buyer to understand the property that they want to purchase and have a better idea of how everything works. How many times, Josh, have you been in a situation where either when you're working with a buyer and you discover something that, oh my goodness, the seller forgot to disclose, or the seller doesn't think they have to disclose, and you inform them that if you don't, that's a violation of ethics. And if you don't, then see ya. I can't work with you because that's just beyond our ethical situation. Talk a little bit about those kinds of things and what you've run into and how ethics really works when it comes down to the nitty gritty.
So let's talk. So if we kind of package it from two different sides or perspectives, one say representing the buyer, the other side is representing the seller. So starting with representing the buyer, once you see the seller's property disclosure, the disclosure that is supposed to tell you about the property, the condition of the property, things that there's no way the buyer's just going to innately know. So the age of the roof, the age of the hot water heater, the age of the septic tank, has it been pumped? Those things. Once we have that information, we can go and verify those. We never take it at face value. I like to think that people don't. My wife says different to this. I like to assume people are not trying to lie, cheat, and steal, but we have to be the ethical person in the building. We have to be the one. I'm not saying all sellers are bad at all, but for some people, there's a hole in the wall. For some people, they call that a window. So I'm making sure that we recognize that if rain can come into the house, while more than likely it's a hole in the wall. It's not just a window. So that being the case, we look at the disclosure, and if things don't match up, they say they replaced the hot water heater, but we obviously see rust. Even if the hot water heater is a year old, but there's rust, it means that it was either incorrectly installed. They could have gotten a water heater from somewhere else. And it just calls to question other things. So we have to make sure that we take care of our buyers. And then on the seller side, again, that same window, they know that window leaked. They knew for years and years and years and years and years that window leaked. And we try to avoid, or we go our way to avoid the situation where the buyer is discovering that issue later, and then the seller saying they didn't know about the issue. We can address it before the buyer even shows up. So we want the seller to be as upfront about everything they know about the property. If they feel that this is a true issue, it's a perfect opportunity for them to address that issue before anyone else is involved. But it's never a situation where we feel that we need to lie or the seller needs to lie. We always want to make sure everything is as open and upfront as humanly possible. And even if there is an issue, there are times where there are big issues that the seller needs to address. I remember this perfect story. I'm not going to say any names, but perfect example. I go to a listing over in Kennesaw, and they tell me we are looking at the house. They said there's a leak in the basement, but it's a leak in the basement. We go through the entire house. Finally, go to the basement. It's about 3 or 4 inches worth of water throughout the entire basement. Just active leak, just gushing water, and I had no idea. Like the way they talked about it, it's just like we have a little problem here. But no, it was literally 3 inches worth of water sitting in the basement. Like, so but anyway, for the seller, it's but a flesh wound, but for anyone else, it's a gaping, bullet hole. So we were able to solve those kind of things up front. But as the seller, we have to kind of manage the seller to make sure they understand that no home buyer is going to buy a home with a flooded basement. She felt they would. And we got the home sold. Actually sold the home for much higher than what they were expecting to an investor who went in. That's what they did. They finished basements. That's who they were. And everyone was happy. Actually sold them 3 houses afterwards. To her mom, to her sad to say, soon to be ex-husband. And they're all happy in the long run. So.
But that's something that's obvious. A lot of times, if there's a known issue with a property, legally and ethically, that needs to be disclosed.
Yes.
However, there are times when there's an issue with the property and the seller is not aware of the issue.
Sure.
Could be hidden behind a wall, lots of different things. And I'll give you a story about an issue that was a $6,000 or $7,000 fix. And you would think that the sellers lived here for 25 years. They didn't know. They didn't. And there's a good reason they didn't. It's because it wasn't visible and it wasn't obvious. And here's what it was. The basement was partially underground and partially above ground. the underground portion of the basement and the foundation that supported that was all built out of cinder block. When they build foundations in Georgia, they build them out of cinder block or they build them out of poured concrete. Both of them are perfectly legal. And you can have a cinder block basement that can last 100 years if it's built correctly. In this particular case, the builder didn't do a good job. They just put the cinder blocks together and didn't do all of the secondary items that were needed to make sure that it had the physical support that it would need. And so over the 25 years or so that the folks owned the home, that portion that was underground from rain, and obviously if you live in Metro Atlanta, you know it rains a lot, the water would continue to soak and soak down and make the dirt pressing up against the wall substantially heavier than if it was just dry dirt pressing against the wall, which pushed the cinder block in and caused the wall to bow. Had a nice little pot belly, as if the pot belly was 7 feet high and 15 feet wide. Why didn't the seller know this? Well, because over the years they had built bookshelves and storage shelves all along the wall, which were completely filled with all of the things that they stored in the basement. And until you moved the shelves away, you had no idea because you could not see the wall and it didn't leak. And so when the home was put under contract for the buyer and the home inspector came and all of the shelves were pulled away from the wall so that the whole foundation could be inspected, the home inspector said, well, this is really nice, except this wall is going to explode if you don't do something about it. That was a $7,000 or $8,000 fix. Company that specializes in fixing foundations and doing the kind of support that'll make that wall last for another 50 years. And so the seller didn't hide it, but they also didn't know about it. And this goes back to the issue of when you have a really good team, part of your team are outside companies like home inspection companies, for example, whose job is to identify all of the issues related to that property, because a house is something physical, so that they can be addressed, so that buyer is satisfied with the condition of the home when they purchase it, and seller is satisfied that they have done all that was required so that the deal could close. So where do the ethics come to play? The deal was find the problems because we're not aware of them. The sellers were legitimately unaware of them, as opposed to they knew about them and hid them and hoped that nobody would notice. Like nobody noticed the 3 inches of water in the basement Josh talked about.
Yep.
But this says you need to have an agent, an advisor, whether they're a realtor or not, that has that support behind them to help the sellers to identify problems up front and the buyers to identify problems when they come to reach them. So it's not just as simple as, right, Josh, take your exam, get your license, and go sell a home.
And I think a lot of that comes with experience. A lot of that comes with experience and relationship building. And it's not specifically to that transaction, but to the team. So what I mean by that is if there's an issue with the basement and you have to immediately go up to some third-party contractor that, say the agent doesn't have a partnership or doesn't know this particular contractor or whatever it may be, that contractor may charge the most amount humanly possible because that's their one shot. Their one shot to get paid and they're going to take over and they're going to take off. But if you're a team, if you've built a rapport with those contractors, if you know the companies, if you can vouch for a lot of their abilities, it happens a lot when it comes to what is it called? Engineers, structural engineers. There's a lot of structural engineers out there. There's a lot of contractors that $5,000 repair, really needs about $700 worth of work. But if of course the seller doesn't know. That's not their field. And then having that rapport, having the agent having the rapport with those contractors makes it where they're going to be more upfront because they expect to get another job and then another job and another job. So yes, we expect everyone to be ethical. We definitely hold ourselves to a very high level to make it. I like to think that I can sleep at night because I've done everything I'm supposed to do and more to get everything taken care of. All of my clients are taken care of, and I have no issue with people calling my past clients and talking to my past clients for those exact reasons. I sometimes even recommend doing that just to verify who I am. Then I stand behind my work, and the team stands behind their work because we're all interconnected.
And all of that works to fit into that basket that people call ethics.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, Steph, wrap us up with ethics. Really, what does it come down to on a daily basis for the practitioner in the field, particularly somebody like you who spends a lot of your time in the field working with buyers?
Well, basically, ethics are, we're accountable, to higher standards in all aspects: honesty, integrity, putting the clients first. That's what ethics is all about. And it comes into every aspect of what we do with a client in a transaction.
So, Steph, working with buyers, right? High stakes stuff. And there are, and this is a practice, there are companies that they have people who are real estate agents. And when they begin to work with a buyer, they have people that they pay a couple of bucks per showing who have a license, but don't know and can't and won't do anything except open the door so that folks can actually walk in and take a look around the house. There's a really big difference between somebody who's intimately involved with their client and somebody who's a door opener.
Absolutely. I mean, from the very beginning, when you are working with a client as a buyer, ethics come into place because, you're guiding them. Every time you go into a house, you're giving them advice. It's just not like, oh, do you like it? Oh, there's the bathroom. Do you like it? There's the bedroom. Do you like it? No, it's like you're looking around with them as if you're going to buy this house, right? I'm going to buy this house, or I'm buying this house for my mother or my sister. So you're looking at that house with those kind of eyes, and you're telling them the good, the bad, and the ugly, which, is not something that the door opener is going to do. They're just going to open the door and let you go in. That is not how it works if you have ethics. And I remember being in the field and telling folks, I'm like, I'm going to tell you the ugly stuff about this house and the good stuff about this house, because you might, unless you're buying this house and this is the last house you're ever going to live in, you're going to want to sell that house. So I'm looking at this house with a bunch of different types of eyes. I'm looking at this house like for you as the buyer, but I'm also looking at this house for you as the seller. And that you might love the fact that, for example, the house is at the bottom of a hill and it's got a forest behind it. I'm going to tell you that when you go to sell this house, that driveway going down to the bottom of the hill and you being in a ditch with a forest behind you is going to be a major negative. Now, you might not like hearing that, but that's the truth, and it's my responsibility to tell you that.
So I had a thought about that. So there are times, I'm sure, that it makes sense for someone to buy a house that is at the bottom of a hill, and there's a but for every seat.
Yeah.
As we've said before,
yes,
more colorful terms. But when there are times where I come in and I'm showing houses, especially the first-time home buyers, and they fall in love with this house. And Everything looks perfect. Everything's been renovated. Everything's great. But the bathroom is in the kitchen. Like, I don't know if you've ever dealt with that, where
Yeah.
you're cooking on the stove, you look to the left, and there's the toilet. Like,
Yeah.
literally, like it's of course there's a door, there's a little powder room, but even in the best scenario, you still don't want to be cooking eggs and just so you may love this home. It may be the perfect home. You may get the butterflies, but it has to be an investment first. The
Yep.
butterflies are important. This is why I tell people, but the butterflies are extremely important. But it's an investment first. And you may have no issue with that the toilet's there, but most people will.
Right.
Another thing I say is, sorry, say.
No, I was going to say, and a lot of realtors won't say that to people. They won't tell them.
Another perfect example thing I say is I grew up. I spent a lot of time at my grandmother's house. I spent a lot of time at my grandmom's house, and she lived next to a train track. And whenever that train would go, everything would shake on the walls. Everything, every single time it would shake on the walls. And for me, that's a term of endearment. I think of my grandmother. The moment anything like that happens, I'm thinking of a train. I think every single time. It's a beautiful thing to me.
Right.
But it's a bad investment. It's not really, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea to invest. Probably the biggest thing you'll buy, the most expensive thing you'll probably buy in your entire life, on that filling.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, unless you're a model train buff, and then you just can't wait for the trains to by.
Yeah.
When I was a kid in New York City, we had public transportation, and one of them was what we called the subways. Except in our part of New York City, the subways were elevated train tracks, and all along on both sides of the tracks, unless they were running through a commercial area, there were houses, apartments, and it just got so that you felt. I go on vacation, and there was quiet, and I couldn't sleep because it was too quiet because there's no train noise.
I'll get worried. I start getting anxiety. I'll hear any noise.
But that's not the typical person.
No.
And so, how a house is the physical place that you walk into and you live inside of. It's the physical place that you drive up to and that you arrive at and you look at, and it's the community, the environment, the street, the neighborhood that house is situated in, and all of those are important, and they're all parts of the pieces of the puzzle that need to be put together so that you have a complete picture at the end of it that says, this is the house that I want to purchase. I like the fact that it has this issue because it'll make the house a little less expensive. I can fix it myself. I don't think that issue is an issue. Oh my gosh, I would never buy this house because of the issue. It's the guy that renovates basements that bought a house with a leaky basement because he could fix it and resell it. There's no problem. But we have something that is unique in the industry that is part of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. We literally created it, which is our buyer protection plan. It's our Love Your Home guarantee. And Josh, I know when you're talking to clients, both for buyers and also helping sellers and offering it to buyers, that's a pretty important big step in creating a sense of comfort in purchasing and selling a home. Talk about that guarantee for a moment, if you will.
Definitely. So the way the program really works is that if someone buys a home with us and they don't like the home for any reason for up to 2 years, 24 months, we'll buy the home back or sell it for free. And I always tell people there are good reasons and bad reasons why you've had to use the program in the past. I can tell you there's 1,000 bad reasons, but there's several reasons where you just have no control over what's going to happen. Perfect example, had a client. She was actually buying a house with her mom. Her mom was going to live in the basement of the in-law suite. She was going to live upstairs. While, during that transition, she passed away. It's a perfect reason to say, okay, there's no reason for me to suddenly, have this 3-story house. But there are some, really good stories too. But main thing is this: if someone's especially coming from out of town, if someone's not familiar, familiar with the area, if they don't know that is the perfect home for them, there is always an out, and that's one thing that helps a lot of buyers out there coming from a lot of different areas, in a lot of different situations. So that's really how the program works.
Yep. And at the root of it, it's, depending on the sale price of the home, it can be anywhere from a $10,000 to a $50,000 help in being able to get from the home that you bought that you thought you were going to love, or that you have to leave for a lot of reasons. It's not just I hate the neighborhood or I don't like the house. It's, I'm working up in Kennesaw, and I bought this really great house in Kennesaw because it's 10 minutes from where I work. And I never expected to leave this job, but I got offered a spectacular job in Macon. And I can't drive from Kennesaw to Macon to go to my new job. So I need to sell my current house and buy another house in Macon. And so we step in and we help them to either get that house sold, which is typically what we'll do, or if not, actually buy that house from them so that they have the money in their pocket necessary to put down on the purchase of the home that they're going to buy next.
Mm-hmm.
So, you tell me if there's any place else in the real estate industry where we will put in writing that for any reason, if you find that this house no longer suits your needs, anytime in the first 24 months you own it and you want to sell it and buy another, we'll either buy it back or sell it for free.
And that kind of goes back to, it kind of plays into the ethics that we were talking about earlier. It means we're not going anywhere. And that's really one of the biggest things. We're not disappearing. Our phone number's not suddenly going to be changed. We're not going to suddenly, we're all full-time real estate professionals. So we have to not just make sure you get the right home. We have to make sure that you're still happy with your home. We don't just suddenly disappear. So I don't know how many times I've spoken to clients about making sure they get their homestead exemption in, making sure they, those clogged gutters. I get that you don't like to clean gutters, but your next door neighbor has a 15-year-old that doesn't mind cleaning gutters, or a 20-year-old that doesn't mind cleaning gutters. Making sure that they are protected well past when you close, well past when we've gotten paid. Because let's be honest, we do a service. We actually do a very good job at our service. We do get paid for that service, but our biggest thing is making sure that they are happy, they are content, it was a good situation for them. We guarantee that even for somehow they move in and 11 months later, that neighbor moved in, that really is a problem. That really is a true, and again, I have stories and we can talk about stories if we want to, but that is a real problem. They have an out. They can get out. And I will answer the phone when they call me 11 months from now.
It's like a return. It's like a return policy, a 24-month return policy on your home.
Yeah, you buy a toaster,
right?
And if it doesn't work, you can give it back and get another one,
right?
You buy a $500,000 home and you're stuck with it.
Yeah. Well, if you weren't, yes, if you didn't work with us, you would be.
Pretty much. But there's also another group of things that we do. And Stephanie, I'd like you to just kind of poke at some of them. It's part of our VIP Buyers Benefits Program. What are some of the things that are really important, that are critically important for a buyer in order for them to have the best experience and make the best purchase?
Yeah, well, I also want to talk a little bit about the Heroes program that we have before we get into the VIP, because the Heroes program, if you are a teacher, a healthcare worker, a first responder, a vet, police, fire, anybody like that who serves our community, we're going to help you by giving you 10% off the top of our commission to use however you need for the transaction. And we feel like, these people have difficult jobs and they're helping out the community, and it's our way of giving back. And so that, from a financial standpoint, helps a lot of these folks out. So I wanted to mention that because a lot, again, if you're not working with a team and you're just working with an individual agent, they're not going to have access to programs like that. And we also have, like Ira was talking about, the VIP buyer's benefit. We have cash offer options that if a seller just wants out, he doesn't want to deal with anybody coming into his house for whatever reason, we have a cash offer program that we can present that seller multiple different scenarios of cash offers, and if they work for him, great. We have another one which I think is fabulous. It's buy before you sell. So you have a couple, they've been living in the house, the kids have grown, they're downsizing, but they're really leery. They haven't moved in 40 years, and they want to make sure that they've got a place to go to. And they want to make sure that the right place is out there for them. So we have that buy before you sell option. And another one that we have is a 24-month refi guarantee. And again, today, in the marketplace with the interest rates going up, going down, that kind of stuff, we have a 24-month where you can refi on your loan and get a lower rate if you feel like the rates are lower and you want to refi. We have that place. So these are lots of tools that we have that we can offer all of our buyers and sellers that individual agents are not going to be able to offer you.
And one thing that comes up when you brought that refi guarantee in up is that I speak to a lot of people. We speak to a lot of people, and a lot of times they say we're waiting for the interest rates to go down.
Right.
And when I hear that, I immediately assume, okay, they don't really know how real estate and finances work, because if they knew, they would know they can always refinance. But it's not their field. That's not what they do. Someone who's a great doctor just may not know. They don't know how a dentist does their job. It's okay. It's okay not to know.
Right.
But my first thought is you can always refinance when the interest rates when they do go down, and we're all hoping they go down. But when the interest rates finally do go down, you can always refinance. But the one thing you can't do is you get that house. If you lose that house is gone. You can always refinance. You always can get that lowered down. Perfect example, if interest rates finally go back down to the 2.5%, 3% interest rates, you had that house for 5 years, you can still refinance 5 years from now down to that 2.5% interest rate, 3% interest rate, whatever it may be, which I doubt we'll ever get back there, but it's an option.
Yeah.
But you have to be in the house first. You have to be in the house first.
It's part of it's our ethical attitude, but it's part of a program that we created out of it. People go to a store and they buy something and they leave and they never come back again. Or they go to the store and they buy something and they may come back, and the second time they come back, somebody's rude to them and they never go back again. Well, it's the same thing with real estate. Real estate professionals, agent, realtor, advisor, whatever they are, they help somebody buy or sell a home, and they're on to the next deal. And whoever it was, unless it's their first cousin or their sister, they're never going to see or talk to them again because they are a past client. And our attitude is there is no such thing as a past client. Everybody that we help is a client for life. And they may not need to buy another home, but they may know somebody that might need to buy a home, and they can refer those folks to us. But they also may need to know, hey, all of a sudden I got up this morning and there were brown stains all over the second floor ceiling. Oh my God. My roof. Who can I call to inspect to see if it is the whole roof is toast or if it's just a hole? so that I know whether or not to go talk to a roofer to replace the roof, repair the roof. And, if you bought the house 5 years ago and your roof is leaking today, ring, ring. Hello, Josh, my roof is leaking. Okay, well, here's what you need to do next. And here's the name of a couple of really good inspectors that can come, that can check your attic, that can check the roof to see if the roof or the attic or elements of it are in need of repair. And they can tell you whether or not you actually need to get a professional in that particular line of work: plumber, roofer, electrician, plasterer, whatever it might be. Just like we've had people to call us to say, my kid needs braces. You know of a good orthodontist in our area? And the answer is yes, we have a list of orthodontists in the area. That's customer service. And that's part of ethical behavior. It's just because you got to check when you help them buy or sell a home doesn't mean you're done. You're a customer for life. And that attitude starts with us looking at, and particularly in working with home sellers who now have a complex product that needs to be put into the right condition so that it can be appealing to buyers who are then going to want to come and inspect the property and make sure it's all in good shape. And hopefully they have a team with people that are going to help them do that. But we have a program that we created that is called our Certified Pre-Owned Home Program. And that was totally designed for two reasons. Reason number one, prove unequivocally to the buyers that the seller is really, really interested in being sure that the home that the buyer is going to buy is in the best actual physical condition it could be. And they've addressed it. And in helping sellers, it goes a long way towards helping sellers to get their full asking price, because they've addressed issues that a lot of other homes that look like theirs haven't been addressed. So, Josh, you do a lot of work with home sellers. When you talk to them about the need to address upfront issues and the ability to apply what that Certified Pre-Owned Home Program can do, what is it that you're talking with them about? And what kind of home and what kind of circumstance do you recommend the Certified Pre-Owned Home to?
Really, anyone who really needs, usually it may not be a brand new house, but someone who they're not usually the most handy. They may have some issues cosmetically, or really just anyone who needs to make sure they can close on time, no issues or problems. Because the biggest issues that pop up are issues that really could have been addressed up front. Title issues, maybe the home passed hands a few times, issues where there are possible repairs that are just delayed maintenance that have become bigger issues that everyone thought they were nothing. I really, in all honesty, I recommend it to everybody. I recommend the Certified Pre-Owned Home Program to everybody, just because it allows you just to get ahead of any issues and problems that will occur. And in this experience, in my experience of really 16 years of real estate, the biggest issues that pop up are usually issues that could have been addressed up front. They're usually things with the property, meaning there's damage or repairs needed, or title issues that could have easily been addressed if someone actually taken the time to look into it. So.
That's once the house is getting prepared to list. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people these days are buying cars that are pre-owned cars. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, we called them used cars. Bought them off a used car lot. Some smart, enterprising car dealership created the concept of a pre-owned car, a certified pre-owned car. And those cars were cars where when you looked at them, two cars exactly the same, sitting side by side. They have new tires. The car's been tuned up. It's been completely cleaned. The brakes that were wearing out were replaced and have been addressed. The car comes with a guarantee, just like our homes come with a 2-year sell it for free guarantee. If you had to pay a little bit more money for a car that you knew was in tip-top condition and came with a warranty, so that if something did break in the first period of time you owned it, it would be fixed for free. Or that other car that saved you a couple $1,000s and you have no idea whether something is going to break. And these days, when you repair cars, there's nothing under $1 million that it costs to fix cars. Which would you choose?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to pay $2,000 more for a certified pre-owned car? Would somebody be willing to pay full market value for a certified pre-owned home versus a house that you buy that you know you're going to have to put $5,000 or $8,000 or $10,000 of cleanup and repair into once you move in?
Yeah, it takes the worry out of it.
Takes the worry out of it.
Yeah.
And then there's another interesting program, which is how we got our company name, which is our guaranteed sale program, which simply means if you have a home to sell and you need to sell that home in order for you to buy your next home. But in order to buy your next home, the only way you can put an offer in on that home is have it contingent upon the sale of your home, which means you may have to pay more for the home, or you may only be able to buy that home if you sell your current home and somebody else comes in and they put a better offer in that's not contingent and you lose that purchase. Our guarantee is if you're moving up and buying one of our homes, and we do this for our home sellers, right, Steph?
Yeah.
Where, we tell them, buyer comes in, they've got a house that they need to sell. It's a contingent offer. We'll guarantee the purchase of their home so they can buy your home. How do sellers react when they hear that kind of thing?
How do sellers react?
Yeah. Because
I can tell you for a fact they love it. They love the idea that it's all about us creating as much demand for the home as humanly possible. I like to tell people there's only so many people looking for a home like yours. No matter what, no matter who, no matter how perfect your home is, there's only so many people looking for your home, your 4-bedroom home, 3.5 bathroom home on the north side of Atlanta in this zip code. There's, with stairs that go up, with bedrooms upstairs. Some people need bedrooms on the main floor. Some people need, they only want bedrooms downstairs on the main floor, whatever it may be. So anything that increases the amount of people that can purchase your property will only just increase demand. That's it. So we try to make sure as many people as possible, especially the people that they know they have a home to sell, they can go ahead and move in. They can go ahead and place an offer on your home and increase the possibility of, going at or above list price, just because you have more people that can buy your property.
And so the guaranteed sale program takes that pressure off of people, knowing that they can put a clean offer in. There's no contingencies. They don't have to pay more for the home than the home is really worth. And that when it comes time to close on sale, they know that their home is sold. Period. Done. There's no issues. And that goes along with, and it actually blends with the program that Stephanie was talking about a little earlier, which is the buy before you sell, working with loan officers and lenders that have these sophisticated programs that enable sellers to be able to buy and in a variety of different ways so they can get what they want as well as what they need, which is to find that new home, buy it, not be in a situation where they're paying 2 mortgages, move into the new home, and then have time to get the old home prepared and get it on the market and get it sold. Well, that's not something that the agent does, but that's something that the agent's team does if they're working with a lender group that has all of these different loan programs to assist buyers and to assist sellers as well. That's the point of working with a real estate professional that has a team behind him. Steph, for years, when you first started out, you were on your own.
Yeah.
And you had to put together all of those different people because there was nobody there to just be there to help you.
Right. It was very difficult. It's difficult because, if you're a single agent, you're juggling so many balls that, whether you're working with a buyer or a seller, and if you don't have a team behind you that has already established relationship with, like we've been talking about, lenders, inspectors, contractors, you name it, movers. I mean, there's so many parts to get it from the beginning until they're actually having dinner, the first dinner in their new kitchen. If you don't have the people that you trust and you can just, because none of this stuff, all of this stuff is very time sensitive. So it's not like you can say, okay, well, we need to do this. So we need a contractor. So now we're going to interview 4 or 5 contractors. It's not, everything is very time sensitive. And everything usually, in the beginning, when we're doing the due diligence period, that could be anywhere from 7 to 14 days at the max. That you've got to get all this stuff figured out. If you don't have people that you can trust and you can pull from because you're working on a team, it's very hard. It's just very difficult.
And in this market, it got worse. In the market of the last really 2 or 3 years,
Right.
7 to 14 days is a blessing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you have to have people on call, people that you can trust, depend on, and that can make a decision, that you're able to make a decision fairly quickly.
Right, because you might be, in a situation where there are other offers coming in, and so you want to have a very, very short due diligence period. You might have to put a contract together with, I don't know, 3-4 days for due diligence. Well, then you only have 3-4 days to get all this stuff resolved. But what's going to happen is another contract might come in and they might ask for more time. So you win the house because your due diligence period is lower. So that's great. You won the house, but now you got to have all the resources to make sure that you can get everything done in that period of time. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of moving parts.
That's why programs like our Certified Pre-Owned Home program, where the issues that should be addressed up front are taken care of up front. They're identified, they're taken care of, and they're done over a time period. That means it doesn't have to cost 2 or 3 times the amount because you have to get it done in a week in order to make the issues no longer an issue. And that you can, when a buyer comes in, you can show them the actual inspection report. Say, these are all the things that were discovered in a home inspection. If you do a home inspection, you won't discover these things anymore because look, here are all of the bills from all of the vendors that we used to fix those issues. So those issues don't exist. You can inspect the house all you want, but what you're going to find is we felt that just as if we were buying the house, whoever the buyer is that's buying that house, we want you to move in and be comfortable and know that there's not going to be something terrible that happens in the first 2 months you live there. Not broken faucets, not broken roofs, not broken toilets. That you buy the house you love and you love to live there. Certified Pre-Owned Home. I need to move, but I got to move before I can get this home sold. A cash to keys offer, buy before you sell. You name it. If your team has the advisors, the vendors, the associates, the customer service people that work as part of your group, the marketing people that work as part of your group, the technology people that work as part of your group. That's what a great agent with a superb team brings to the table, so that when you buy or sell a home, you have the guarantees that this is going to be a smooth, on time closing, which is super important, which doesn't happen all that often, does it, Josh?
Does not.
Does not. Well, we want it to be as smooth as it could ever possibly be,
Exactly right.
buying or selling a complex item like a home that has physical, personal, and emotional and financial elements to it that you want to feel are really the best thing for you. And so that way, when you get up on a Saturday morning and you want to go out and you want to go find some great festival that Stephanie's going to tell you about again, to go out and eat too much food and drink too much beer and come home and have a great time, you're coming home to a place that you love. So, Stephanie, give us a fast recap of all of the cool things that are going on around town.
All righty, dighty. So what we got is the North Georgia State Fair in Marietta, the Old Fourth Ward Fall Arts Festival in historic Fourth Ward of Atlanta, the Sweet Auburn Music Festival in Atlanta in the historic district of Sweet, down there in Sweet Auburn, the Riverfest Arts and Craft Festival up in Canton. It's got a lot of American Indian influence to it. Then we have all of the pumpkin festivals that are going on for the kids, the Stone Mountain Park Pumpkin Festival, Bert's Pumpkin Farm, Uncle Shuck's Corn Maze, all that stuff's going on. And last but not least, we have the Haunted House fans. We have the Netherworld Haunted House in Stone Mountain. And at Six Flags over Georgia, we have the Fright Fest that's going on. So, yep. And again, go up to the mountains and pick some apples and do some of the other things I talked about, because now we are into fall. It doesn't feel like fall, but we're there.
So, Josh, give us a quick wrap up, because you've bought a house, sold a house. You've had the personal experience in doing that, and you bring that personal experience to helping the clients that we serve at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the Miskin Team. How would you wrap it up for folks if they start doing their homework to find an agent with a team? What should they be looking for?
You have no volume, Josh.
Sorry. I think track record is going to be one of the biggest things. Experience. It's going to be one of the biggest things. Because like we were saying earlier, things very rarely, there's something always pops up. So having the knowledge to know what's going to come down the pike, what are the possible things that are to come down the pike, it's going to be monumental. Guarantees for someone to know that even in the worst case scenario, you have an out. Guarantees to make sure that the biggest issues that normally happen are addressed. I think that's one of the best things you can possibly do. So having that, looking at the track record, making sure the person, the team and the people have the experience, having the programs, the opportunities, not just to help the if you're representing the seller, but their buyer that you bring in, they're able to get the job done, meaning they're able to close. And anything you can do to bring all those extra buyers in is going to be most important. It's probably going to be one of the most important things too. So there's a lot to look for when it comes to who you want to work with, but having the experience, having the programs, having the guarantees will put you miles and miles ahead of anyone else.
And that's that for today. And good advice wherever you are and wherever you're viewing this podcast. If you're in Metro Atlanta, please give us a call. There's never any cost and there's never any obligation for ideas, information, and advice. You want to know wherever you are how to go and search out the best possible advisors that you can to be able to make the business side of the transaction blend with the satisfaction of the personal side of the transaction so that the sale of the purchase of your home really is one that you have comfort in being able to do. So I want to thank you for watching this week. It was a little technical. It was a little in the weeds. There was a lot of things to think about because it really is a big step that everybody takes when they buy and sell homes.
Mhm.
But again, thank you for joining this week's ATL Home and Market. And if you liked what you heard today, please, on the YouTube channel, click I like it. We always want to let people know. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead and do that because this and lots of other great information and videos is part of what it is that we put out there for you to be able to check out and get the best information you can when it comes to real estate, buying and selling homes. And absolutely, if you need information or you want to find out anything more about anything we've talked about today, call us, text us, email us, and we will be there to be able to give you the information that you need. And perhaps one day you become a client for life. So on behalf of Stephanie and Josh, I want to thank you again for joining us. Hope you have a great weekend. Go out and do some of those things. Eat some food, drink some beer, have some fun, buy some art. And we'll see you next time on
Great
ATL
week.
Market.
Have a good one.
Y'all take care.